Hello. So I am doing take two. Here we go again. I'm having some interesting tech problems today. But, anyways, it's been a while since I have done any kind of consistent live videos. And I've been really missing these conversations and sharing this such important information that I feel like I need to be sharing. I've still been working with dogs, supporting clients, learning. I've been doing lots of filming and videoing. My camera is very full of pictures and videos, and developing new ideas, but I have not been showing up here on YouTube as regularly. Um, and I really realize that I need to get back to speaking about the things that matter to me. So I may not say things perfectly. I say a lot. I may pause. I lose my train of thought, or I definitely glance at my notes. But I'd rather have this honest conversation with you than keep waiting until everything feels perfectly polished, because it seems to be pretty difficult for me to be able to hit that live button and to go out there and to just make these conversations and information that I really want to get out there to share. So today, I want to begin talking about something that can completely change the way we see our dogs: behavioral diversity. Behavioral diversity. It's even a kind of a tongue twister, but I want to introduce you to something new that will help, because I have been creating what I am calling the dog behavior detective. So what do we usually notice with dogs? When you think about helping a dog, people often very quickly think about training. So when we think about teaching a dog to sit, to stay, to come, to walk nicely, to stop barking, to not jump, to stop chewing, to stop digging, to stop pulling. We become very focused when people want help. When you want help with their dog, people are always become very focused on what they want the dog to do and what they want them to stop doing. So how often do we simply stop and just watch the dog? Just become focused on what they. How do we give the dogs enough time and freedom to show us what they naturally and actually really want to do? What does your dog notice? What holds your dog's attention? What do they return to? What do they go back to all the time? How do they use their body when they're doing things? What do they sniff? What do they pay attention to? And what do they carry? What do they watch? What do they dig in? What do they pull apart? What do they avoid? What do they get curious and go up to? And what do they explore? How about what brings them excitement? Instead of all these trying to figure out how to stop them do things and teaching them things what we want them to do, think about what brings them satisfaction, what makes them happy, what makes them feel confident, and what helps them calm down, what makes them calm. So before we stop behaviors, before we interrupt them and redirect the behaviors, we become curious about it. And that doesn't mean that every behavior is safe and or appropriate in every situation. We still have to protect our dogs and other animals and people and the environment. But observation gives us information. When we understand that what a dog is trying to do, we can often provide a safer, more appropriate way for them to do it. Think about how we support children when they're to help them grow and to learn. We don't expect every child to enjoy the very same activities or to learn in the exact same way. One child may spend hours building with Lego, playing with Lego, and another one might want to color, kick a ball, maybe dancing. Caring for animals. Some children really are curious and naturally interested and in being around animals and caring for animals. Some like to take things apart. Some like to build things. Some will make a whole world with small figurines. I had all those little toys. Little farm animals was the big thing that I remember really liking. So when we stop and watch, we can begin to learn something about that child. We notice what holds their attention, their joy. We notice how they solve things and use their imagination, and how they like to move their body, and interact socially and make sense of the whole world. So we help them do more of it when we know that they like it, and we give them, more art. We give them materials. We give them maybe books. We give them maybe a pair of binoculars. We give the builder our, Lego. So we're not simply just keeping a child entertained. We're encouraging those. We're fostering those interests and the curiosity, so that they, to help them develop coordination, concentration, creativity, confidence, knowledge, emotional well-being, and social skills, being in groups and doing things around other people, going to, even to the zoo. You're going around people, and um, going to school is a very social learning experience for children, and daycares, and going to the park and playing. And it starts, these things all help give a stronger sense of identity. So we're watching that individual child and helping them develop through things that naturally interest them. Excuse me. So dogs show us that they are too, the same way they show us that who they are through their choices and their behaviors. One dog wants to sniff everything, every end of the trail. Some dogs will just zoom down the trail and not even stop to sniff anything. Another one might want to carry something all the way. Another one might stop and dig all the time. Stopping and peeing and marking is very common. In what I see in dogs that get to do more of these opportunities, the more they do, the more they get the opportunity, the more they will start doing these things. And these are dog behaviors. Some will patrol the yard. Some like to search and find things hidden that are like hidden food. And others roll and everything, or they chew, or they want to play socially, or rest really close to their person, right? Really, really close to you. My dog's such a big part of things, just resting together. With every dog I'm with, I see it more and more. The time I offer it, the more opportunities I offer it to sit and rest with me. Many, many, many dogs are doing it more and more. Others prefer to stand back and just observe for a while. I always say they're digesting. They're just taking all the environment in before deciding whether they want to join a group, or whether they want to go and, look at this, tree, or whether they want to go look at the pile of sticks. All these little differences matter. And instead of right away deciding that a behavior is pointless, or if it's inconvenient for us, or something the dog should just stop doing, we get to pause and ask, be a detective. Why? What is the dog choosing? What are they good at? What seems important to them? What does the behavior allow them to experience? How are they feeling? What is it? What are they getting out of it? And what are they learning? And what social, maybe, and sensory and emotional needs might it support to be able to check out something, to do what they want to do with something? As we learn, the same as how we learn with children, by watching what they choose to do, we can learn from our dogs. We can learn who our dogs are by giving them the space that allows them to show us, giving them that space. So behavioral diversity is the variety of behaviors that an animal is able to express. Sniffing, searching, digging, chewing, dissecting and pulling things apart, licking, carrying things, running, playing, watching, patrolling, communicating. There's a lot of behaviors when you start really looking. The more I look, the more I find it's very exciting. They communicate. They seek social contact, and they also move away when they need space. They choose different places to rest. They use their senses and their bodies to gather information and interact with the world all the time. Excuse me, these behaviors are not meaningless extras. They're part of being a dog. And behavioral diversity does not mean that every dog must perform every behavior differently or equally. they just perform everyone differently. It doesn't mean that they need to be do every behavior, and because they do them all differently. The important question is whether the individual dog has the appropriate opportunities to make choices and to engage in the behaviors that are meaningful to them. A good life is not created by making every dog behave the exact same way. It's created by understanding the dog in front of us and supporting the different ways they learn, the way they move, the way they communicate, the way they explore, the way they connect, way they rest, and the way they experience the whole world. Another way to really understand dogs a lot better, to take it down a little bit deeper for individual dogs, is looking at their legs. And the legs model is really helpful when you step back and you look at what does the dog learn, the learning, the environment, the genetics, and the self of the dog. Combining this information, what has worked in the past? What have they learned about the environment? What have they learned when they try and sniff? Every time they try and sniff, they get yanked away. This is something I see so often, and it's simply a dog trying to communicate and explore their world. What have people intentionally or unintentionally taught them? The environment, where the dog lives, where they get to go, what's happening around them. Do they have enough space? Do they have predictability and safety? Can they rest? And do they have these appropriate opportunities to do these behaviors, to carry out what they need in their natural behavioral diversity? Book of it's not even a book, it's genetics, what they need to carry out and to do. And that's why the genetics is just, what have they inherited? It's in their bread, in their ancestry. It's their individual biology and the self. Who is this dog? What have they gone through? What's their age? How are they feeling? What are they comfortable? What's their physical condition? Are they healthy? Are they feeling safe in the environment? The emotional state? What's their personality like? And what's their individual experiences with the world and everything that's going on around them? We can't understand a dog by looking at one isolated behavior. We can't do it. We need to understand the individual who is expressing it. And behavioral diversity also is a part of total welfare. So when we think about giving dogs a good life, we think about, often people will say to me, they think about food, about water, shelter, veterinary care, a walk, and love. Those are kind of all the things that a lot of people really think a good life involves. And all of these things are essential, but welfare also includes the physical environment, the health, their fitness, their behavioral interactions with the world, with the environment, and with people. They need to have, that's a big part of it. Is this really fits in the total welfare, looking at their behavioral interactions part of it. And this all together helps their mental state. And that becomes total welfare. If all these things are doing well, then it's total welfare. Mentally will show us. We will see it. Can the dog move their body freely in ways that are comfortable and satisfying? Can they rest without being repeatedly disturbed? Do they get to use the senses that mean something to them, that they want to use? Some sniff much more, some are watching more, some are listening more, and some of them are a real combination of them all. Do they have choices? Can they interact safely with people, other animals, and the environment? Can they avoid situations when they feel uncomfortable? Do they have opportunities to forage, to play, to search, to chew, to sniff, to dig, to explore, to connect, to participate in the behaviors that are important to them? A dog can be loved so much, but still not have opportunities to express these natural and very important behaviors. And that doesn't mean that that they have failed. It just means that they don't know. They've never been taught. Most people have never been taught to look at dogs that at a dog's life this way, the dog's view. Um, excuse me. Dogs live in a world that's almost entirely designed and controlled by humans. We get to decide where they live, where they eat, when they go outside. We decide where they walk, how quick they move, who they meet, what they're permitted to touch, how much freedom they get to receive. We get to decide all that. We decide if they can stop and sniff. We can decide whether they have to keep on walking. We decide whether the barking, the digging, the chewing, the shredding, or the watching is acceptable. Dogs have adapted incredibly well to living alongside us, but the modern human environment is not something they're designed for themselves. They did not create our houses. They did not create our sidewalks. They didn't create our work schedules, the social expressions that we have created for them, the leash laws, or the ideas about what a good dog should look like, because we control so much of their lives. I believe we have a responsibility to understand who they are, not only to teach them how to fit into our world. That's why I've been developing my dog behavior detective. Being a behavior detective is not about diagnosing your dog or immediately deciding what every behavior means. It begins with something much simpler. Just stop, watch, and notice. Try to describe the behavior before judging it. Instead of saying my dog is being stubborn, ask what's their body doing? What are they doing? What are they looking at? Are they moving? Are they moving towards something or away from it? What happened before that started, before that behavior suddenly happened, when you think they're being stubborn? What choices do they get to make when they're not being told what to do, when they're not being directed? What changes when the environment changes in their behavior? A detective gathers information before reaching a conclusion. That's what I want people to begin doing with their dogs. We often see behavior and immediately place a human label on it, right? They're naughty, they're stubborn, they're bad, they're lazy, they're dominant, they're attention seeking, they're over dramatic. But those labels don't tell us, what the dog is actually doing or why. So when we look closer, we can notice communication and curiosity, sensory exploration, uncertainty, excitement, fatigue, frustration, maybe a need for movement, or a need for safety, or a need for distance. Sometimes we simply discover something the dog really enjoys. The goal is not to turn every moment into a serious analysis. The goal is to become more observant, more curious, and more willing to see the dog as an individual. This week, I would like you to take a few minutes to watch your dog without immediately asking them to do anything. Give them a safe opportunity to make some choices. Watch them in the yard, during a walk, in your home, or when they interact with an object. Notice what they choose to do. What do they go back to? What holds their attention? Are they using their nose, their mouth, their eyes, their ears, or their body? Excuse me. Does the behavior change depending on the location or the people that are around, or maybe something that happened earlier in the day? You don't have to interrupt everything. Just start by noticing. You might even write down the 3 behaviors you saw. 3 behaviors you saw without labeling them as good or bad, right? Instead of writing my dog was being difficult, you might describe what actually happened. The dog stopped walking, turned their head towards a field, lifted their nose, and stood still for 20 seconds. So if you just let them do these things, that behavior gives us information. Being difficult doesn't give us any information. Being stubborn doesn't give us information. Be curious, be a detective. What's really going on? What are you really seeing? Behavior is information. Our dogs are continuously showing us how they experience the world. I have just found 2 new behaviors that I just in the last couple of days watching my dogs. I'm still learning, and it's very exciting. When you slow down enough to notice their behavioral diversity, you begin to learn what matters to them. You get to provide better, we can provide better opportunities. We can help support their total welfare. We can make more thoughtful decisions about their environment, what they're learning, how their health, their relationships, and every single day their everyday lives. We can build relationships based not only on getting our dogs to listen to us, but on learning how to listen to them. So this is where I would like to begin. I don't know what that noise is. Stop, watch, become curious, and look closer. Thanks for listening. Please put in the comments anything to do with behavior, try and think about it, describing the behavior, being a detective, dog behavior detective instead of labeling the behavior. Be a detective and share anything you find to do that helps you understand, or maybe you think twice about your dog and figuring out, noticing things, because it's a big learning curve. It's a great journey to go on. Please be curious about your dog's behavior, and it's the first step. Being a dog behavior detective is the first step to learning your dog and understanding their behavior, because understanding changes everything, and it starts with understanding and seeing the behavior.